Welcome back, everybody. And I thought I would do something a little bit different. OOTP last week. Well, unless you're watching this, in the year 2025. Back in early October of 2023, Out of the Park Developments had introduced a new pop-up tournament style. And the interest in this was so great that it filled up within, I think probably within an hour, hour and a half, 256 teams entering to try to win what might be the best prize pool we've ever seen kind of in a tournament like this. Outside of the PTCS and PTMS, just kind of a regular old tournament, this one was offering up for first place 3 immortal packs and 100,000 perfect points to the winner. Second place would get 2 immortal packs, 70,000, and the semifinalists would get 1 immortal pack and 25,000. And this worked its way down all the way to 128th place. So even if you won one round, as you can see I did here, you would get at least 1 historical silver pack just for playing. Did it cost anything to enter? Absolutely. It cost 1,000 perfect points. And the rules were pretty simple. You could only use perfect team cards from the years 1980 to 1992, or the defensive era. No other cards would apply, none of the live cards. You had to use cards from those specific years. And fortunately for myself, I had the Dave Steeb Super 7 All-Star theme team. So I did have a lot of cards from that era, but of course I did not have a lot of the meta cards. And unfortunately, I lost out in a heartbreaker. And it was disappointing because I thought I had a pretty good team to get a little further, and to give up 9 runs in the bottom of the 9th after having a 6-4 lead. Yeah, that was a little tough in game 7. So who knows how far this game could have went for my team if we would have got a little bit better luck in game number 7. So if I go and look at game 7 here, bottom of the 7th, a ground out, couple singles, 3 singles in a row. And even with 2 outs, it was a tie game, but it wasn't meant to be. We were not meant to go any further in this tournament. So I wanted to analyze it a little bit because OOTP is planning on doing more pop-up tournaments. Starting with the next one, they're going to have 2 each week because this one filled so quickly. So let's go and look at who won the packs and some of the players that stood out in this tournament. All right, looking at the playoff leaderboard here, big congratulations to the Florence Baycats, run by Isidafo, who had an easy time in the finals. Usually when you make it to the finals, you expect it to be a little bit closer, but the Baycats, 4-0, winning the tournament. So congratulations. It's always cool to kind of look at who wins the first tournament. And I did send a message to Isidafo and asked him a few questions and said, Isidafo, what was your key to success? And of course, like a lot of people do, they say, well, Lap, I got a lot of luck. I'm not going to lie. I got a lot of luck. But the other big key to success were that this was a tournament where there weren't, your top options were much better than your second, third, and fourth options. So if you had all the top cards, you were probably going to do well because it wasn't like there was, should I take this guy or this guy, that guy or that guy? It was pretty obvious for a lot of the positions who you needed to have to do well in this tournament. And he had a lot of extra days off too because the Florence Baycats, if we can kind of look at, let's see if it kind of shows a little better. Go here, not really. So the Florence Baycats, maybe if I can go here, yeah, let's go to the different rounds. They win 4-1. This one here, the Florence Baycats win 4-1. So Isidafo also mentioned that they had a lot of off days. I mean, in the last 3 rounds leading up to the finals, when you win 4-1, your players are going to get rested. So congratulations. Looked like a fairly easy time for Florence. Also asked him, well, who would you consider your player of the tournament? Who performed, who would get that trophy if you had to nominate someone? And surprisingly, it was a pitcher. Usually your MVPs are your hitters that play almost every day. But Isidafo said that has to be Fernando Valenzuela. And when I look at his record, he went 8-0 in the tournament with a 151 ERA, almost 72 innings pitched, 54 strikeouts, under a 1 whip. Okay, I get it now. I see why this would be your player of the tournament. Mind you, Oral Hershiser, the 97 Oral Hershiser, goes 7-0. Very similar ERA. Again, probably in consideration. And Dave Stieb, the perfect Dave Stieb goes 7-1 for the team. You know you got a pretty good lineup when your number 4 guy is Dave Stieb. And interesting enough, he put a guy with a low stamina, Dan Quisenberry, who of course is not going to pitch a full game, more kind of used maybe as a longer opener, kind of, was the number 5 guy. Of course, didn't get any pitching decisions because didn't pitch the full 5 innings, but did have an outstanding .90 ERA. So look at this record here. Just with the starters, we have 15, 20, 27-5 record for the starters. And the bullpen, you see, didn't get a lot of use. So Florence was using a strategy where, starters, let it ride. Pitch till your arm falls off. Going the full distance. And your longest reliever plays just over 16 innings. And John Denny, what a great 16 innings you had. Let's take a look at the batters for the winning team. Head down to Florence here. When you have 256 teams, it's gonna require a little bit of scrolling. All right, ratings, stats. So this is the team that won the 3 Immortal packs. Of course, you got the Immortal Ricky Henderson, must have, I think, for this tournament. You've got the Tops George Brett. You've got the Tops Mike Schmidt. You've got the award-winning 99 from the PTMS David Justice. So this is a card that not many people are going to own. So big advantage there. And how did David Justice do? 5 home runs, 24 RBIs, 1.4 WAR. Yeah, I'd say he was a useful player. Kirk Gibson must be the 96 with the fantastic card art. Kirk Gibson hit a 263 average. The Eric Davis, which seemed to be the popular choice for outfield for this tournament, 97 rated. Didn't hit well, but probably, I would imagine, really, really good defensive. 2.4. Okay. Who else do we have? We have Gary Carter, who by far was the only decent catcher for this tournament, the only catcher you would want to consider. There were a bunch of gold, obviously a lot of bronze and silvers, but Gary Carter was the guy you wanted. And then a sneaky play, which a lot of the great managers that have this card probably would have used, and this is Ozzie Smith. He's not there for the offense. You get any kind of offense bonus. But Ozzie Smith, you're going to use for the defense. Only committed 2 errors, 21 double plays, a 6.15 RNG range factor. So fantastic play because there weren't a lot of high-end shortstops that came from this era that were available. And then finally at second base, the tournament edition, Willie Randolph. Similar kind of thing. You're not using him for offense. You're using him for that defensive rating. And you see, again, only 2 errors, 18 double plays, and a 4.9 RNG. So there you have it, the lineup, lefties versus righties. A few differences, and Andres Galarraga, again, a PTMS card that Florence had. And Barry Larkin, a card available to anyone with PT Plus. Again, kind of a card you wouldn't expect to be used because it is a very fairly common card. A lot of people have PT Plus, but performed extremely well and was the guy opposite of Ozzie Smith. And Julio Franco against the lefties. Julio Franco hitting .302, so he had a fantastic tournament. Defensive wise, again, really solid with only one error in his 11 games. So there you go. There's a look at the roster construction. Now, obviously, we can't see the strategy. We don't know the fine tuning that Florence used with their sliders. And we can kind of see the bench a little bit, at least, of the bench. Just a solid overall roster. The Dave Winfield, I think, was the only LE card for hitters that Florence used. 318. So again, to do well in this tournament, you need those high-end cards. And we can see that this team had PTMS cards. They had the recent Immortal releases, and then they had at least one limited edition. Carlton Fisk, I guess, a second, although a little bit more obtainable as the backup catcher. When we look at, a team that I thought would do better, didn't quite win that Game 7. This was the team that I used. I had Saberhagen, I had Steeb, but compared to, Izadafo, I didn't really have those high-end cards. I had never qualified for the PTMS. I didn't pull a lot of the limited edition cards. So, and the new Immortal cards are, pretty pricey. So I wasn't able to obtain any of those for this tournament here. So I did have the George Brett card. I had the Carlton Fisk as my starter. Don Mattingly, pretty decent card. Not even the best Ricky Henderson. I had the second best Ricky Henderson available. Okay. So I asked Izadafo, I said, what cards did you pull when you opened up your Immortal packs? Because when you open up an Immortal pack, you're guaranteed an Immortal. So you're either going to get a diamond or a perfect. And his words to me were, I pulled the Preacher Rowe, he pulled the Marc Belanger, and he pulled the Jose Canseco, all diamonds. And, when we look at the market value of those, you're probably looking at about, 225, 200,000, plus the 100,000 for the win. So probably, again, as I mentioned on stream with Charles was saying, how much would you spend, Lap, on this tournament to build a roster? And I said, well, maybe about 150,000. And to make that back, you're going to have to basically come in the top 4. And obviously I didn't. But then again, I would not spend 150,000. I would only spend perfect points if I'm going to use those cards at a later date. So congratulations to Izadafo. Thank you for providing me some feedback for the tournament. Let's take a look at some of the leaderboards here. Who were the best players? Don Mattingly, the best average, 91 at-bats, 484. The Immortal, the Topps George Brett. We have a couple of George Bretts. Interestingly enough, we do have one that played 16 games, but it's the Gold Tournament George Brett. Wow, that's pretty good, hitting 413 with that gold. We have the 96 Ricky Henderson. Again, great to see. 25 games started and a 404 average. So that was the top Ricky, not even the Immortal one. And then we did have an Immortal Lou Whitaker that played 23 games and hit 398. So these cards, man, they did well, a lot of these cards. Another shocker, I guess, Eddie Murray leading home runs and a 391 average. Amazing, 13 home runs in the tournament for Eddie Murray. Mike Schmidt, yeah, you would expect to see a few Mike Schmidts. So Mike Schmidt hitting 12, and this Mike Schmidt hitting 274 with 10 home runs. Kind of cool. One reason I entered this tournament was to reflect back and look at the statistics, look at kind of what the top cards are, and just kind of by a quick glance, Mike Schmidt, George Brett, Don Mattingly kind of stand out for me. War-wise, who do we have as the top war? Schmidt, Davis. This Eric Davis here from the Vlad News Bears. Second overall in war. Good to see. So yeah, I would say Davis, Brett, Mattingly, Schmidt. In terms of your hitters, they appear quite a bit. Of course, Ricky Henderson for the stolen bases. 1 immortal, 2 immortals. Yeah, top 5 were all the immortal version. And I believe there were just over 40. So this card came out on Thursday morning. And the tournament fired off about 7 hours later. And in those 6 or 7 hours, there were over 40 Ricky Henderson immortals in this tournament out of the 256 teams. Some of the pitching leaders. Let's take a look at some of the familiar names. There's that Valenzuela that went 8-0, also the highest WAR in the tournament. There's the Oral Hershiser. We see Steve. So yeah, Hershiser, Steve, Valenzuela, Saberhagen, Doc Gooden, Dave Righetti, John Tudor. Again, as Isadolfo mentioned, there are a class group of cards to use, and it showed based on the overall statistics. Fielding leaders. Again, depending which fielding category you prioritize, I like zone ratings. So Kirby Puckett, wow, it's a good card. Did not expect it to lead with a 5.4 zone rating, again, for the Vlad News Bears. He performed really well. And again, you could see the framing runs. Look at this, all Gary Carters. Like I said, that is one of the positions where there was an obvious choice who you wanted to use. Any big streaks? Doesn't look like it showed in the tournament there. Sortable stats, I can kind of scroll through and you can kind of see the common players that were used. A lot of Jim Sundbergs, a lot of them used at catcher. Mickey Tettleton looked like another popular choice. Nicky Thon at shortstop. You Alan Trammels as well. Of course, when you have 256 teams, you're going to see a lot of different players. But, just looking at the catcher, I said Gary Carter was the obvious choice. And as I continue to scroll, a lot of Gary Carters. The unanimous choice, use as catcher. So there you guys go. I wanted to peek in a little bit at the tournament, show you guys the results, just in case you weren't entered, in case there is another tournament that comes up from this era. You kind of have an idea of which players performed the best. Congratulations again to the top 4. Let's give a shout out to the quarterfinalists. West Hartford, Max Oysters, Philadelphia Cross Foxes, Vlad News Bears, the Florence Baycats, the West Pleasant Mounties, 90s expansion, and the Ottawa Hammerheads and the Albany Senators. Semifinalists, Florida would defeat West Hartford in 5 games. The expansion would defeat Albany in 5 games. And then, as I showed you earlier, it was Florence sweeping with Brett Saberhagen as the MVP in that round. 4 games, and Brett Saberhagen probably pitched 2 games, I'm guessing. No, he only pitched 1 game. And he was the series MVP. What a game it was. The full 9 innings, didn't give up a run, 5 strikeouts. There is your series MVP. Again, congratulations. Look forward to the next one. Probably going to be from a different era, I would imagine. And again, you can get a lot of these cards every once in a while on the card shop. You can open up the 1981 exclusive pack where all cards in the pack are from 1981 and would be eligible for a tournament like this. Thank you guys for watching. Would appreciate a like or a comment. Did you enter? Are you going to enter the next one? As I said, I entered to get the information at the end, and I entered because if you win one round, you make your money back, as long as it's still a historical silver pack. Have a wonderful day. It's a great day for baseball. We'll see you next episode. Congratulations, Lawrence Baycats, your October surprise pop-up defensive era winners.